Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the reading of the Sinatra 100 book. Now, the Sinatra 100 book is this. I got this for Christmas last year, and it contains photos of Frank Sinatra that had never been seen before. Oh, and just in case you want to know why orange is in here, because Frank Sinatra says orange is a happy color. That's why it's in here. But anyway, so here's a never before seen Frank Sinatra picture. Him in the studio. I think this is him doing Strangers in the Night. No, but it is during the 50s though. It's him singing one of those songs. And the conductor in the back is Nelson Riddle. Here's another picture of Sinatra in the studio. This is during the 60s, and you can see he's not wearing his wig. And this is Sinatra. Has to be from the 60s. It looks like he's in his 50s there. I could see the wrinkles on the top of his head. I don't know. But this is Sinatra singing Close to You. As you can see, Sinatra's talking to one of the band members, because his head's in the direction of the trumpets, I think. And this is the foreword by Tony Bennett. Foreword. In Frank Sinatra, I found my great mentor. If you ask me, he made the greatest music that ever came out of America. I'll never forget the first time I met Frank. It was in 1956 at the Paramount Theater in New York. I was the new kid on the block, and Perry Como had given me his summer replacement show. The television network, NBC, cut the budget for my production, affording me very few guests and a smaller band, and didn't know quite what to do. A smaller band. I was concerned about the impact of these changes and didn't quite know what to do. There was only one person I believe could help me. Frank Sinatra. Well, Frank was playing at the Paramount, so I decided to try to meet him. Friends of mine warned me, "You'd better look out. Sometimes he can be really tough." Being a huge fan of his since my early teens and loving the way he sang, I thought he'd understand my problem. So I took a shot and went backstage between his performances. I told a guard that I'd like to meet Mr. Sinatra. The guard conveyed my request to Frank, who said, "Have him come in." I entered Frank Sinatra's dressing room and introduced myself. "I'm Tony Bennett." To my delight, he said, "I know, your record is being played all over. What can I do for you, son?" Situation. I have to perform live on television every week, and I'm extremely nervous. I just don't know what to do. Frank said, "Don't worry about that, kid. If the public sees you're nervous, they will support you even more." The biggest lesson in my professional life. And receiving his friendly advice helped me overcome my stage fright. Let me tell you about the power of Frank Sinatra. I was in London performing in 1965, and a friend of mine from the States called me and said, "Wait until you read what Sinatra wrote about you in Life magazine." When I read the article, I was knocked out. Frank told the interviewer, "For my money, Tony Bennett is the best singer in the business. He excites me when I watch him. He moves me. He's a singer who gets across what the composer has in mind, and probably a little more. He was nice enough to give me his whole audience, because after that, every one of his fans started to come to see me. His comments tripled my business. Sinatra's statements changed my life. I've been sold out around the world ever since, and I believe it is the single most generous thing any artist has ever done for another." Another special moment happened in Frank's 1974 live concert TV special, The Main Event. At that time, my mother was unfortunately very ill, knowing she was dying. I was with her that evening to watch the show. During the concert, Sinatra mentioned my name and praised my singing. My mom heard his comments, and I really believe that made her live another 6 months. She, along with the rest of my family, was so proud that Frank acknowledged me. I love him for that. One night, just before he passed away, I had dinner with him at his home. Frank said to me, "I just believe in one thing and nothing else. That's loyalty." I realized then that all of Sinatra's life revolved around that promise. By that, I mean, if he liked somebody, he loved them. And if he didn't like them, he wouldn't even let you bring up their name. Sinatra became my best friend in show business. I had the greatest pleasure of spending many birthdays with him and was honored to sing his 50th, 65th, and 80th birthday celebrations. We did not get to spend much time together, but when we did, we always had a great time. As we celebrate his 100th birthday, Frank Sinatra is still relevant. While I miss him, it is a great comfort that his legacy, the wonderful music he left us, lives on for future generations to enjoy as much as I have. Tony Bennett. And this is the foreword by Steve Wynn. Frank Sinatra was the greatest vocalist of the 20th century. That's not debatable. But Frank was more than just an entertainer. Sinatra was one of us. He grew up in the early part of the century and faced all the same problems that the majority of Americans face. And that's why people related to him so much, related and felt a personal connection with the man and his music. Frank was a complex man, but that was what made him so interesting and his music so honest. Frank tasted all the flavors of life. He knew the good and the bad, the ups and the downs, but he always got back up on his feet and moved forward. After his comeback in 1953, no one could touch Sinatra, and he never looked back. Men absolutely loved him, and men respected him. So it came to me in the early 80s that Frank should be the spokesperson for my luxury hotel and casino in Las Vegas, the Golden Nugget, and not just a singer we hired for sporadic engagements. What our customers all were dying to get in on was the Sinatra charisma. That's where I came in, with a high-line marketing strategy for Frank. I made commercials with him. I made him available as host at parties with him. No, I made him available as host at parties in Hong Kong, Las Vegas, New York, and New Orleans, any place. Sinatra flew with me to meet customers take pictures with them and say, look, the next time you come to Vegas or Atlantic City, let Steve and me take care of you. Frank told me, Steve, this is what I always wanted to do, but nobody ever asked me. All they wanted me to do was sing at night and then sit in my room all day. A powerful magnet and help me introduce people to the Nugget and our brand. Just answer this question and you'll understand the power of Sinatra. If you were out on the town and Sinatra was playing and you, who should we see tonight? Sinatra or, there's no or. Frank had that type of charisma that only few people I have met possess. Whenever he entered a room, the atmosphere was changed. Everything would change. Presence would make people act differently. In all my years of working with Sinatra, what I enjoyed most was being in his company. In terms of just hanging out and having a good time, Sinatra was peerless. Frank's favorite thing was to be around a group of friends and tell stories. He'd get a Jack Daniels in one hand, loosen his tie, and hold court. He was the most attentive host and marvelous storyteller. I was amazed at his perfect recall of everything from Harry James and Tommy Dorsey eras up through the moments in his movies. He also loved reminiscing about the good friends in his life with such as Joey Lewis, Dean Martin, and Sammy Davis Jr. One of the things that is very rarely explored is just how considerate he was to his friends. Frank could be remarkably caring. The general public never saw the gentle side of him because, apart from his singing, he rarely showed emotion. He loved children and dogs. Years ago, during a world tour, he visited a children's home and a blind girl asked him, "What color is the wind?" With tears in his eyes, he said softly, "Dear, no one knows because the wind moves so fast." In the realm of tipping, or duking, as Frank called it, his legend towers. True story. A young parking attendant at a hotel brought Frank's car around. Frank asked him what was his biggest tip ever. Biggest ever tip. And the kid said $100. Sinatra handed the kid $200 and then asked, "100. You did, Mr. Sinatra, last month." That was Frank. The untold things Sinatra did for so many during his lifetime are staggering. No one knows the true extent of his generosity because Frank believed that if others knew about it, then it was not done for a reason. Frank is timeless. Sinatra stood for intelligent music and arrangements along with the ultimate in integrity, glamour, and class. This is his legacy. Music today is so miserable by comparison, and with a few exceptions, disposable. Not a day goes by that I don't listen to his music. It sounds cliche, but his recordings are the soundtrack of our lives. There will never be another Frank Sinatra, nor will there ever be another story like his. It was one of the highlights of my life to have known and worked with the man. As we celebrate Frank's 100th, my hope is that this book brings back wonderful memories to those who knew the man and his music, and for those who never had the pleasure, enjoy. So that ends the part 1 here, and see you guys next time for part 2.